It's common knowledge that for most people, buying your home will be the biggest financial investment you will ever make. So it's natural to want to be sure that the home you're buying is sound. For some, that means getting a private survey, in addition to your mortgage valuation. But is getting 2 surveys really worth it? If you're applying for a mortgage on your new home, your mortgage lender will generally carry out what they call a mortgage valuation. It's often presented as being very basic and not containing very much information as to the actual condition of the property, focusing more on the value of it. Because of this, some buyers like to commission their own, more detailed private report, officially called a Level 2 survey, or often called by its old name, Homebuyers Report. But are private Level 2 surveys really necessary? Many people purchase Level 2 surveys thinking that they'll be better protected. However, if you're thinking of getting one, be very careful. Level 2 surveys often cause misunderstanding, and they can make for very scary reading if you've either never seen one before or you're not sure of the actual role of the surveyor. But before we go into that, let's talk about the basic valuation, commissioned by your lender, and why, in many cases, they are often totally adequate themselves. In short, lenders do not want to lend on defective properties because if they have to repossess it, then they have to sell it on. And they want to make sure that they're going to get their money back without any shortfalls, especially after the 2008 banking crisis. Lenders are simply not in the business of taking any risks. So therefore, they firstly have to make sure you're not paying too much. And if they suspect any serious defects in the property, such as damp, rotten timber, issues with the roof for instance, they will flag it up and ask for a separate report on that issue from a specialist, often affiliated with a trade body in that field. If the specialist confirms there's a problem, the lender will usually demand that the problem is rectified before they'll commit to the full lend. Now, to me, that is more than adequate. There is no better protection for you than a lender who blocks your purchase by refusing to lend. So, you'd think on that basis that there's often very little need for a Level 2 survey. However, you do have the right to commission one, and it's often more justified on much more expensive, older, or larger properties. Either way, it's essential that you understand a couple of points. Firstly, the surveyor is effectively redoing much of the work already done by the lending surveyor. And given the mortgage valuation is the important one in terms of confirming or even resetting the purchase price, that makes the private survey effectively irrelevant in this matter. Secondly, the surveyor is not the expert. All surveys, no matter what the level, require the surveyor to simply observe the age and apparent condition of certain items within the property and award each one of them a score. On a Level 2, they're simply checking over a higher number of items as opposed to going into more depth on important ones. An example of this is the central heating system. The surveyor will look at the boiler and note the approximate dates it appears to have been installed. And that is literally as far as they go. They can't service the boiler because they are not a gas safe specialist. And they can't fire it up because they just don't have time. So what they'll ask for is a document referring to its last service. And if it's not available, they'll ask for it to be checked over by a gas safe specialist. However, it is the next comment that will scare you. In the absence of an official document, the surveyor will cover himself by saying the boiler may need to be replaced, but they won't specify when or under what circumstance. Now, given all boilers will need to be replaced at the end of their natural life, that comment from the surveyor means literally nothing. Now imagine that on dozens of different items, it makes for much tougher reading than it needs to be. So here's the thing. The surveyor doing the Level 2 holds the same qualifications and is therefore no more of a specialist than the one who did your mortgage valuation. So even though your report is longer, it still won't tell you whether an item is or is not defective. And because of this, it makes it look like the surveyor is ripping the property to bits, which is where the misunderstanding of the report comes in. It often leads to panic and hesitancy amongst buyers. Now, you are of course entitled to get as detailed as a survey as you like. However, our advice is to ensure that you use a reputable company who will talk you through the survey once the report is produced, or at the very least, share the report with the agent so that they can effectively translate it and talk you through the next steps. Otherwise, you could be shelling out hundreds of pounds for something of very little benefit to you.